Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today, why I don't drink alcohol. I haven't drunk alcohol for about 13 years. Two primary reasons. Firstly, genetic alcoholism. I have a relation who did considerable amounts of damage to his own life through the consumption of alcohol. And I'm a strong believer in the fact that you have a finite amount of luck in this world, and that's just a way of accounting for random probability that occasionally works in your direction. And if you have anything that inhibits this luck, it's probably going to affect you in a way that you may not see initially, but will accumulate into circumstances that you probably don't want to be in. Which is a kind of applied way of saying, irrespective of genetic traits associated with alcoholism, it's probably also good not to drink if you are in these circumstances. The other thing that I found was that alcohol in my life had limited effect on me, but I used it kind of like an antidepressant. And it never really resolved any of the issues. There's a beautiful paradox which says that you can internally resolve issues within yourself, but if they relate to others in the external world, you cannot resolve those issues. You just need to find ways of coping, strategies around the individuals, perhaps. But through that period of time where I stopped drinking officially, I wasn't in a particularly good place associated with my work life. And it was something that ultimately I realized alcohol wasn't going to solve. I was also relatively newlywed, and I realized also that I didn't want to be perceived to be someone who drank. So through this period of time, I stopped drinking alcohol. I'd stopped drinking alcohol maybe 2 years earlier for a period of about 8 months. And I did that primarily because the environments that I was in and also the people that I knew meant the consumption of alcohol was pretty common. And the US has a strange view associated with alcohol. And when I came to the US, I realized that I couldn't consume alcohol in the quantities that I had quite comfortably in Australia. And that was like my first stop. But then a series of circumstances occurred. I found a bottle of wine in my refrigerator. I consumed it, listened to some music, and realized that, there was so much of my life that was based on this kind of mental state associated with alcohol. And I resumed drinking for a couple of years until I went completely cold turkey in September 2003. I don't know how else I can describe this circumstance. It's a choice that I've made in my life. I certainly don't prescribe to others that they should stop drinking. And I certainly wouldn't want to say to anyone, this is the way I live, this is the way you should live. But I do reflect associated with genetic alcoholism and the fact that it probably should be treated with a greater degree of caution than it is in the general populace. In the case of my relation who drank heavily, and actually a number of my relations drink heavily, but this fellow in particular had a substantial detriment in his life. He lost a good portion of his family, and it wasn't just that he lost a good portion of his family, it was that everyone involved lost contact with these people. And now, slowly but surely, some of these people are kind of back in communicative contact. But I think the damage caused through that lack of interaction, and also the fact that, as an individual I am particularly curious, even amongst the curiosities that are my family. That, I haven't been able to make any representation of how I am different. I'm just kind of grouped together with this mass. Even though I don't drink alcohol, even though I live in a completely different country and I've made a number of choices in my life that none of my family has made. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.